Presented by RomulusIT.com, offering remote support for common computer problems. So, as I said, we want to move it. There are some big scandals that pretty much for a lot of people, over here fell under the radar. Most people that I speak with internationally, travelers, kind of recognize the Justin Trudeau who smiles, goes on trips to India, that sort of thing. So when we look at 2019 and SNC Lavalin and Jody Wilson-Raybould, do you want to? I'm just going to open this up to you because a lot of people over here are completely unfamiliar, with some of the big scandals that were familiar to Canadians.
Yeah, look, I mean, this one for a so-called woke prime minister is a real whopper because let's go to the origin of it. SNC Lavalin was accused of stealing over $100 million from some of the poorest African people in the world. They were alleged to have bribed the Gaddafi family with prostitutes, yachts, and other benefits in order to defraud the Libyan people of over $100 million. So you'd think that a woke, anti-colonial, modern progressive would be outraged by a Western company stealing from poor African people. Trudeau wasn't not only not outraged, but he actually pressured his Indigenous Attorney General to have the charges dropped and a special agreement signed that would allow the company to avoid even pleading guilty. They pay a small fine, apologize, promise not to do it again. She said, hell no, we live in a system of laws, rule of law, not the law of rulers. They should face a prosecution and let the legal process play itself out. So he fired her for that. And here you have this ultra woke liberal leftist protecting a corporation that had stolen from the world's poor. And then when an Indigenous woman stood up to him, he fired her. This all sort of runs a diametric cross purposes to the narrative we're told about these woke progressives. And in the end, he claimed it was all about protecting jobs, that if the company were convicted, all these people would be out of work. Well, they were in the end convicted. They pled guilty and nobody lost their job. So it wasn't about protecting workers. It was about protecting a liberal-linked multinational corporation with a long-standing track record of corruption from legal accountability. Trudeau was personally found guilty by the ethics commissioner of improperly advancing a private interest in the affair. But it really stands as a glowing example of his personal hypocrisy and utter moral failing that he ever ventured down that road in the first place.
And I'm told that he was the first sitting prime minister ever to break federal conflict of interest rules. What does that even mean then, if there's nothing to be reprimanded for in this?
Well, he was found guilty twice, actually, once in this case and another time for accepting $250,000 worth of vacation gifts from someone with whom he had government business. So the Aga Khan was seeking a $15 million government grant from Trudeau, and he offered Trudeau a $250,000 worth of private island vacations, which Trudeau accepted, and the Aga Khan's foundation got the $15 million grant. So it's an incredible case of corruption. In most countries, it would have been prosecuted criminally. Taking a $250,000 vacation from someone who's seeking a grant from you is clearly against not only the law, but against the criminal code. He managed to avoid criminal charges, but was found guilty of breaking the Ethics Act.
And I had also read, in addition to the SNC Lavalin scandal, there have been other women that have been pushed out of the Trudeau government as well, despite him considering himself a feminist.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you can go down the list. There's one case after another. I won't go into them all, but what you see with this guy is that there's a lot of glowing woke rhetoric, but when you see his personal conduct, it is always the exact opposite. He uses women and minorities for his own political advantage, but then ultimately engages in hostile political conduct towards them.
Mm. Moving on, I guess, from scandals to scandal, we have the We scandal. And this is where, from far away watching on YouTube, this is where I have really seen you sort of come to light through, these investigations. Do you want to tell people what this is? It's quite significant, and I guess their footprint within the charitable sector and how they mutually benefit from this.
Yeah, I mean, the scandal there was that Trudeau's family suddenly started getting these speaking fees from the We charity soon after he became Liberal leader. And the We charity is the sort of, I don't know, for anyone who might not have followed them, they're sort of this pop culture charity. They hold these evangelistic youth gatherings with, thousands of screaming kids and celebrities. And there's a lot of, change the world rhetoric. And there's been a lot of scrutiny about what they actually do, what good they actually produce with the millions of dollars they raise. And this scrutiny led to Justin Trudeau's family because they had paid his mother and his brother and his wife a total of $500,000 for speaking fees and travel expenses. And Trudeau then approved a $500 million grant to the organization to run a program for paid volunteership. So, obviously it's an oxymoron. Volunteers don't get paid. Volunteers don't get paid, they volunteer. So when you heard the program, people heard about the program, they're just like, first of all, how does this even make sense? And then we found out that the We charity had gotten a sole source contract to run it for the $500 million. And then after that, we found out that the Trudeau family had been paid by that organization $500,000. So the Trudeau family got $500,000 from We, and the We organization got $500 million from Trudeau's government. So it's like a big self-licking ice cream cone. Anyway, so he gets caught. The whole program is canceled. Trudeau says, shucks, I really should have, no, I should not have been involved in the decision to grant this money, but I didn't do anything wrong. His finance minister was forced to resign over it because of his involvement. The finance minister had two major trips funded by the We charity to, I think it was to Kenya and El Salvador or Ecuador. And then he got involved in giving them a grant. So he had to resign and was found guilty of breaking the law. So, you just have these seedy cases of corruption that have engulfed the Trudeau government again and again.
Mm. This episode is brought to you by Romulus IT, offering fast, affordable remote support for common computer problems, including troubleshooting, health checks, virus removal, and software support. Visit RomulusIT.com to get your computer back on track.